Hey, what's going on? My name is Cam, and I started Dynasty FF Helper as a way to begin getting involved in the fantasy football community. I've been a fantasy football player for over a decade and a football fanatic all my life. I was born a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. I had a Mike Allstott jersey thrown on me at birth in the hospital, and ever since there, I've just had a blast being a part of the Bucks crew. My hopes here with Dynasty FF Helper is to one, join in on the community, make great connections, and add a lot of value. But also to have a lot of fun, man. Like I love doing this. This is something I've always, and I don't want to say like you throw around the word passion too loosely, but it's kind of always been like a passion of mine. And quite frankly, to be honest with you, I'm pretty good at it. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I have an incredible track record. I have won many, many leagues. I dare I say over 50% of the leagues that I participate in, I win. And I've been the friend that has always helped other friends, people like my brother and my brother's friends, I've co-workers. I've helped so many people win leagues that they're in, whether it's their work leagues, friend pools, things that they're in. I've always been that guy that just kind of helps folks, whether it's helping them with their draft, helping them with free agent pickups or trade offers and all this kinds of stuff. So I was like, man, why don't I bring this public? Why don't I try and create a little bit of a brand and have some fun with this? So I'm here hoping to share, hoping to have some fun. This is going to be my first video, my first stream, and I'm just looking forward to jumping into things with you guys. I want to do a best ball draft over on Underdog. We're just going to jump into a schnauzer, none too crazy, a little $3 draft. We'll do it 20 seconds per pick. I've done a pretty good amount of these drafts. I do hundreds of best ball drafts on Underdog every year. This year, I've probably done around like 50 or so, potentially more. And I'm starting to get a pretty good feel for the ADP for the different guys that are like in different ranges. I'm finding myself enjoying drafting from many different places. I don't really know if I have a preference this year, front of the draft, back of the draft, middle. I notice that when I'm in the middle of the draft, I get a lot of value fallers to me. Um, it happens less often for me when I'm on the turns, but I also enjoy being on the turn and being able to just say, hey, I'm going to go grab my guys. And, when I get back in 20 picks, I'll come grab two more of my guys. So no matter where you land, you can win championships this year. Do not be discouraged at all. My hopes is to jump into this, talk through a little bit of my mindset, my thought process, and share some things that could potentially be helpful. So when we look here, we are picking from the 11 spot. I've done three of these Schnauzer 2s semi recently. And by semi recently, I mean today and last night. And all three of those last ones I picked, I was in the 12 spot. So I was kind of hoping I'd get something different, but we're picking from the 11. Maybe we can make something good happen here. Now, when you come into a contest like this and it's tournament style and there's so many different drafts going on, you obviously want upside. You also want you also want uniqueness. And so when I find myself at the end of drafts, I see a lot of common starts that happen very often. And so I do want to be somebody that keeps it fresh with new variations, but also doesn't make just outright bad picks for the sake of reaching in uniqueness. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip ahead of these guys that are at the top of the queue, which pretty much all of the guys in the first round are great picks, by the way. Can't really go super wrong with any of them. Maybe Christian McCaffrey at 8.8 is crazy, but that's a different conversation. I'm just going to start queuing up guys down here that I would be happy with having, hoping that they fall to me. Malik Neighbors is definitely one of those guys at this ADP. Nico Collins is probably second on the list here for me. Ashton Genty would be third in this range. I think I'm staying away from Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that might be, one of the worst decisions I ever make because he's been a guy I've been really high on in years past. But with the new offense coming into town and things potentially being different and him coming off of multiple great years already, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a blip in the radar or a down season or something happens, and I just don't want to spend my first round pick on that. Brian Thomas Jr. was a monster last year, and he's definitely a pick I don't mind here. But some other guys I'm really high on, even above Brian Thomas Jr., to be honest with you, is Drake London and A.J. Brown. I'm high on both of those gentlemen and Derrick Henry. So all three of those players are people that I am super okay with drafting at the end of the first round and just, to heck with ADP, regardless of what it says, like coming away with, if I had Derrick Henry and Drake London, who both have second round ADPs, and those are the two guys I got at my 1-2 turn, I'd be pretty happy with it. So as we come up here in one pick, um, let's see. I think this one is going to be, I don't want to say clear or easy, but I think Nico Collins is a pretty safe pick for us here. He has great upside, a ceiling just as good as any other receiver in the NFL, and he is also a part of an offense that I believe is going to have an improved year. Like he is going to be playing with CJ Stroud, who's looking to redeem himself. We saw what CJ Stroud did in his rookie year, and folks were, I mean, jumping at the bit, super excited. We were putting him as high as, not we being me, but we, the community, we're putting CJ Stroud as high as like a top 5 dynasty starter quarterback, sometimes top 3. I've even seen him go 102 before. So, he's got it in him, and it's in the line of reasoning for him to progress and have a good third year. And if he does, Nico Collins will be a beneficiary of that. They added some people to the room, and Jaden Higgins, who I'm a believer in, Jalen Noel, Christian Kirk, all these guys. But at the end of the day, the alpha is still going to be the alpha, and Nico Collins is that. With our next pick there, we were looking at either Derrick Henry or Drake London. Those are my 2 top picks at that point. Drake London is just, to me, like he is one of my favorite picks of the second round. That is my dark horse wide receiver 1. Like I think he could potentially be the number 1 receiver on the year. I think after this season, he will put himself in the conversation with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase as one of those elite dynasty guys. He's young enough. He's got the build. He's finally in an offense that has a little bit of life, a little bit of potential. He doesn't have Desmond Ridder tossing him the ball and ancient Kirk Cousins. Michael Penix is like a left-handed Jameis Winston. If you haven't watched much Michael Penix, a left-handed Jameis Winston who is probably a better decision maker, probably going to throw less interceptions, and has a prettier ball. Not going to lie, he's a very crisp thrower of the football. So Michael Penix to Drake London is a connection that I'm really excited to see this year, and on a bigger sample size, because when we saw it at the end of last year, it was bonkers, dude. Like I was very happy. I had Drake London on some of my teams in one of my leagues where I made a nice little championship push. Drake London toward the end of the year had a ridiculous week, and if he can have 3 or 4 of those over the course of the whole year for us this upcoming season, then we'll be super pumped about having his numbers attributed to our best ball lineup. So we're coming up in 7 picks here. I don't think any of these guys are going to fall, but we would be super excited about grabbing most of these value fallers. I'll start by starring JSN because it's not completely outside of reason to hope for him. As we scroll down, I don't hate having Josh Allen, who could just very well be the QB1 every freaking week. The guy is unbelievable. Mike Evans has been incredible every single year. Breece Hall, if we need to take our first running back, that's a guy that I'm okay with having as my first running back. So these are a few of the guys that I'm looking at in this range. Want to check out what falls to us. So Breece Hall just went, which is kind of unfortunate. Kyren Williams is the last top backup here. I don't know if I want to draft Kyren. I hate to say it. Pretty sure they're still, they're talking about an extension and what they're going to do with that. Sometimes early in my drafts, I want to just make sure that I get a hit. Like I don't want to draft uncertainty. And there's a little bit of uncertainty around Kyren, but he just went, so we don't even have to talk about him or think about him anymore. Let's see who falls here, man. Omarion, if I was like desperate for a running back and I only had like one choice, Omarion Hampton might be a guy. Okay, so JSN went. Who are we looking at up here? Terry McLaurin falls to. Scary Terry. Isn't he in some kind of. Oh, and he's not attending camp either. See, like stuff like that's risky to me, man. Like I'd rather just take Mike Evans, who I know 100% is going to be a man of integrity, great character, is going to do his thing and ball out. Terry McLaurin goes, no surprise. I don't really have any shares of Xavier Worthy, and I do think that could be a mistake. But we want to have at least one good running back, and I'm not really loving who we'll be left with as our RB1 if we don't take, even though it's a reach, if we don't take a guy like Omarion Hampton here. we might not have that elite RB1 that we're hoping for, and Hampton has a chance to do that down the stretch as the season progresses. And when it comes to playoff time in a tournament like this, I like the idea of having a growing rookie running back. So it's a little bit of a reach in ADP, but that might also add to the uniqueness of our team. How many people will have started Nico Collins, Drake London, Mike Evans, and then Omari and Hampton? So we got three big dogs at wide receiver there who I believe will be consistently plugged into our lineup. It doesn't mean that we're done with wide receiver by any means, because we want to have a deep wide receiver room, but something that's different about this season compared to years past, as someone who has drafted hundreds of best ball drafts on Underdog every single year, usually I feel gross when I have to grab multiple wide receivers in the late rounds. It's just the position dries up so quickly. But this year, man, there's a lot of guys down there that I like. There's a lot of guys down there that I feel good about. Whenever I get down to the queue, I find myself, lining up 10 plus different guys that I would be open to having on my team. And I can't say the same for the other positions. I might find two running backs down there in the late rounds that I want. I might find one or two quarterbacks. I might find one or two tight ends. But the wide receiver position is pretty steep down there. So I like the idea of stacking heavy up top. And then maybe we'll use these middle rounds to fill out our other positions, make sure that we're well equipped, because I like the running back value for RB2 and beyond. I like the running backs that'll be available to us in the next set of picks here, but I just didn't want any of those guys as my RB1, and I'm willing to take the shot on a first round rookie running back. Once again, the Chargers are going to run the ball with the Greg Roman offense. They're going to do the thing. Let's not overthink it. Now, don't discount Najee Harris, though. Najee Harris is going to be a part of that offense. He's going to get touches. The dude has been super consistent every year of his career. I'm a fan of Najee Harris. Actually, when he was a rookie and he had that great rookie year, I pulled a Najee Harris rookie card that I was really excited about. And I was like, man, this thing's going to be worth some money one day. No, probably not. But he's going to be a factor this year. It's not Omarion Hampton's backfield all by himself. Now, when we look at these picks coming up here, if a guy like Chuba Hubbard falls and we get him as our RB2, I'm going to be pretty happy. If Alvin Kamara falls and we get him as our RB2, I'm probably going to be pretty happy. Joe Burrow, he won people championships last year. His weapons are ridiculous. He's a pocket passer, no rushing upside, but he still has some ridiculous upside just with his passing alone. Rome Odunze is a guy that I really like in this range. I think those are two of the guys that we're going to be eyeing here and hope falls to us. So let's pray that Alvin Kamara falls to us with this next pick. You dirty dog. Okay. So let's go ahead and, we will take Rome Odunze here. Primed for a year two breakout. The dude's built like, he's built like a tank. I have him nicknamed in some of my dynasty teams on Sleeper, the Kryptonian. I mean, he's going to be good. I'll talk a little bit about him. Our next pick, though, am I crazy to not draft a falling RJ Harvey? I might be, but Sam Laporta. Give me Sam Laporta, man. I think that's the guy. We're going to let the clock run out here. We're going to take Sam Laporta. So with these two picks, we took Rome Odunze for a couple reasons. One, I'm a believer in this Chicago Bears offense. With Ben Johnson going over, they're going to have an improved culture, an improved feel. Caleb Williams is going to step up as a second-year quarterback who everybody believed in him coming in. Coming into the league, people were comparing this guy to Patrick Mahomes, calling him Patrick Mahomes' nephew. That was me that was calling him Patrick Mahomes' nephew. But anyway, I know somebody else thought it because they look kind of similar. People were drafting him 101 coming in rookie drafts. I saw him go in first round of dynasty startup drafts. Even in underdog drafts last year, he was drafted pretty high, and now he's falling because people are disappointed in a rookie year. That I think we should have all been able to see it coming that his rookie year wasn't going to be his best season right away. And somebody in that offense, there's a lot of competition for targets. Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet. DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, Kyle Mungai, right? There's a lot of guys out there, but somebody's going to be the alpha. And I think that Rome Odunze is the only person in that wide receiver room, tight end room, everything all together that has the ability to rise above all of the competition and be 1,000-yard producer, potentially 10-plus-yard producer. So if we can get him at pick 59 to be our fourth wide receiver, and we might be building the biggest wide receiver room of all time here with Nico Collins, Drake London, Mike Evans, Rome Odunze. That's like all of them are 6'3" and above. That's good stuff right there. And then we went Sam Laporta with the next pick, which was a little bit of a reach, but he's tight end 4 in ADP here, and I think there's a really real chance that he could be the tight end 2 on the year. I don't project him above Brock Bowers by any means, but I wouldn't be shocked if he finished above Trey McBride. I know there's a lot of Trey McBride truthers out there. Don't get me wrong. I believe in Trey McBride too. But if we're just being reasonable here, like, I don't think that I don't think that I want to bet on the fact that Kyler Murray is going to throw, get both Marvin Harrison Jr. more involved and Trey McBride more involved in a way where it feeds fantasy folks to the level where they want to be fed. Because everyone has these high expectations. Like, I have not drafted one single share of Trey McBride in the second round. I think that is nuts. End of the second round, Trey McBride is crazy. If you're doing that, please stop. You're throwing your money away. If he's in the third round, I'd maybe take a shot on him. But I would much rather wait till the sixth round, pick 62, and get Sam Laporta. Because now with a guy like that, depending on who my tight end 2 is, I could potentially feel comfortable with leaving this draft having only 2 tight ends and not having to stack a third. And I can use that extra position to add onto my running back room, which is I'm likely going to need to put it in my running back room, being that I only have 1 here through the first 6 rounds. But this range of guys coming up is all running backs, and I kind of like what we're looking at here. So let's pause for a second. See who goes. I like the idea of landing a Tony Pollard. So between DeAndre Swift and Tony Pollard, let's actually take DeAndre Swift. I actually, in the last draft that I just did before this one, I took Tony Pollard, and I'm a believer in Tony Pollard. He's gotten over 1,000 yards multiple years in a row. See, the guy that came picked after me picked Tony Pollard. He believes too. I respect it. But with this next pick here, we're going to do a little bit of a reach, and I am going to talk all of you into Emeka Egbuka. So if you take a look at, there's so many layers to why I'm a believer in Emeka Egbuka, and I'm just going to refer to him as Mechatron as a tribute to Megatron and a little play on words with his name, Emeka. Mechatron is coming into a situation that most people, I think, are misinterpreting. Many folks are projecting Chris Godwin coming back and being Chris Godwin full-time right away because of how much money Tampa gave him. And something that I think is potentially worth clarifying as a Tampa fan who's been watching this organization for years, his whole life, and knows how they think and what they're doing, that payment to Chris Godwin is not a vote in confidence that says, hey, Chris Godwin's going to be back and playing right away. It's an honor to the character that Chris Godwin has been for our organization. I mean, he's been incredible, a stand-up guy. I mean, there's so much that he's sacrificed and allowed to be overlooked so that Mike Evans could shine. Because Chris Godwin is nearly just as good a talent. Like, if he was wide receiver 1 and solo in a receiving room on most other teams in the NFL throughout his career, we'd be looking at Chris Godwin like he was, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't even have a guy to compare him to. Like, he would be viewed very highly. And because of that injury, his last potential big contract of his career would have been ruined almost. And Tampa wanted to honor him, pay him well. And sure, he got a bigger offer from the Patriots, but there's some more layers to that story as well that I don't think is super important context right now, because here's what I do think is worth noting is Emeka Egbuka is going to be in a full-time role right away on this team. And in that full-time role, here's what I think he's going to do. He's going to have a Brian Thomas Jr. type of rookie year. Brian Thomas Jr. was being drafted right in this exact range that Emeka Egbuka is going last year, and he finished as a top 5 wide receiver. And it was because of his build and his situation. Emeka Egbuka has the build. The dude is solid. He's a tank. He's got the IQ. And he's basically going to look last year, reflect, go inside your mind, pull up the stats, whatever you got to do. Look at what Chris Godwin did the first half of last year before he got hurt. And then go to Jalen McMillan and look at what Jalen McMillan did the back half of the year after Chris Godwin got hurt. Okay, now pause for a second. Emeka Egbuka is going to do that all freaking year. All year. He's going to be what Chris Godwin was, what Jalen McMillan was. If Mike Evans goes down, he's going to be that. Like, he is going to be legit. And the fact that you can get a guy like that at pick his ADP at 93.2 is insane. I've been reaching on him. I would pick him at like pick 70. I would be willing to pick him like 20, like 2 rounds ahead of his ADP. That's how high I am on him. You should be pretty high on the guy too. Okay, he is the real deal. We're coming up in 2 picks. I want Caleb Williams with the first one. We have Roma Dunze. I'm happy with getting a Caleb Williams stack there. And then, oh yeah, and we want Travis Etienne. So with our first pick, we're going to take Caleb Williams. He gives us the stack with Roma Dunze, and he has a lot of weapons too, man. He's one of those guys that is in a position to succeed. With Ben Johnson coming in, new offensive coordinator. I talked about this just a moment ago with Roma Dunze. I mean, dude, you heard that list of weapons that I rattled off that he has working in his favor. If he doesn't succeed, then he's just not an NFL quarterback. And I believe that Caleb Williams is an NFL quarterback. I think he proved that abundantly and earned number 1 overall draft capital with it because of it. So anticipate a sophomore year breakout for Caleb Williams. It's going to happen. The next pick there, we went Travis Etienne Jr., and I'm just going to throw it out there, like, the fading that has happened on Travis Etienne this offseason has been nuts. His ADP has been going up like 20, 30, even 40 spots compared to where it was earlier in the offseason. So I have a ton of ETN shares in these drafts as I'm drafting him later. But this guy is going to be a beneficiary of Liam Cohen going over to Jacksonville. And as a Tampa fan, I'm very familiar with what Liam Cohen can do for an offense. Look at what he did for Tampa last year. Look at how much fun we were. Look how many points we scored. Look at how Bucky Irving was used. Look at what Rashad White was able to do even with Bucky Irving's emergence. Look at the week that Sean Tucker had where the man had like 3 touchdowns and a ridiculous amount of fantasy points because Liam Cohen knows how to use his running backs. And I'm just letting you know right now, the running back room of Travis Etienne Jr., Tank Bigsby, and Bashil Tootin, none of those guys scare me. Etienne is the clear number 1 there. He has had a RB1 finish, not RB1 overall, but a top 12 RB finish in his career, in his early career already, with much worse conditions. These are real people. These are not just numbers on a paper. Travis Etienne is a real man with real feelings, real emotions, real things going on. And I can tell you that Travis Etienne is going to come in and bounce back. I'm very excited about getting him at pick 110 and him being the 3rd running back in our room. Even though we grabbed Omari and Hampton late and he ended up being our first running back, I'm still pumped about how our RB room is shaping up here. 7 picks away, I'd be happy with Mims. I'd be happy with Kirk. I don't think either of them are going to fall to us, but I'd take either of those guys. I would have taken Ramondre Stevenson had he fallen. If we scroll down a bit, I'm open to taking Trevor Lawrence for all the reasons we just chatted about with Liam Cohen going over there and the good things that can come from that. CJ Stroud is an option because we have Nico Collins. I like the idea of that stack. I think that he can bounce back. If we scroll down further, Isaiah Likely is a guy that I really want to have. Really like Isaiah Likely. So let's see what happens here. We're up in 4 picks. Trevor Lawrence just went, so that's unfortunate, but that's okay. J.J. McCarthy goes. Okay. 2 picks away here. There's something about drafting, man, and just sitting here waiting and like seeing who's going to fall to you and what pick you're going to be able to get. It's kind of like, it's fun. It kind of gets you excited. Let's see. Christian Kirk fell to us, and that's a guy I actually really like having, but our wide receiver room is stacked, and I want to make sure that we're able to get C.J. Stroud because now we have a stack in Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze. We have a stack in C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins, and on weeks when those guys pop off, we will be beneficiaries of them. Also here, so Christian Kirk is like the pick. If I'm being honest, like he's the smart pick. I also don't mind the idea of Kincaid, but I'm gonna be a little crazy here, man. Like I'm gonna reach on Isaiah Likely, and the reason being, so our tight end one is Sam Laporta, right? I can pretty much count on him to be pretty consistent. I think he has a safe floor and has a pretty good upside. Isaiah Likely has a huge ceiling. If Mark Andrews misses time, or even if Mark Andrews is fully healthy and both of these tight ends are playing because Derrick Henry is running the ball like crazy and they want to run with a stacked box, have the two tight ends. Dude, look at what Isaiah Likely did week 1 last year as a young man. Like he's young. Look at his age. He's young. I'd have to pull it up to confirm it. He might be 24, 25. He's a young man. He's emerging in the tight end position. We've been spoiled in the last couple of years seeing these young tight ends break out because in years past it took tight ends years to develop. And if you look at all of the writing on the wall and what the coach is saying about them, yeah, coach speak happens every year. We always see coaches hype. The coaches are supposed to hype up their guys. Okay, that's a sign of a good coach. But the way that coach is talking about Isaiah Likely and saying that he sees him as being able to be an all pro, if he wants to give Isaiah Likely the opportunity to earn all pro honors, that means he's going to give Isaiah Likely opportunities to go out there and earn the honor of all pro. If Isaiah Likely gets opportunities, that's a big boy. That's a big boy at the tight end position. He can get some big spike weeks for us in the tight end 2 slot. I'm pretty happy about that. Our team is coming together beautifully. Um, we're 11 picks away, so we'll wait another minute before we start queuing guys up. But I'll tell you now, if Michael Penix falls and we can have Michael Penix stacked with our Drake London, we will be happy, happy, happy. Shout out to Duck Dynasty. Um, Beyond that, if people fade Rashad White, I'll grab him. Get you some Rashad White. I don't know if I talked about this component earlier or not, but this is something I think about a lot. Because these are real guys and they have real incentives, when players are in their contract year, the last year of their contract, and they're looking to prove themselves to earn another contract, oftentimes I like making bets on those guys. And Rashad White is one of those guys where this is the last year of his contract. He kind of got overtaken by Bucky Irving. And I'll tell you what, like as a Bucks fan who's been following Rashad White, I've liked him his whole career and he's always had high ambitions. Like he believes in himself. He wants to be a high achiever. He has goals of being 1,000-yard rusher every year in the league. I think that whether Bucky Irving is the beast that we think he is or he's not, Rashad White's still going to have a role. He means something to this team. He's a great third down running back. He's a great pass catching running back. There's good components that he brings to the table that Tampa Bay, they're going to use this guy. I'm just telling you, they are going to use this guy. So if he falls to us, we'll take him for sure. Taking a look at other guys down here, I don't hate grabbing Bryce Young. I'll talk about why if he ends up being our third quarterback because if Penix were to go, I wouldn't be upset about that. Man, down here, Braylon Allen is a guy that I'm a fan of. I think that he was a guy that I loved coming into the league, to be honest with you. I mean, he's really young, even still. And yeah, he's playing behind Breece Hall, but if he gets any opportunities, I think he will be able to do something with them. So let's see. If Rashad White falls to us, we're super happy here. Super happy to get Rashad White here. That's a pretty big faller. Go ahead and sleep on Rashad White, everyone. We'll take the value fallen. Next up, we're looking down. I'm not enamored with any of these guys down here. I would like to have a third quarterback that's decent. I don't have anything set up to have a Cam Ward stack or a Geno Smith stack. I think we just go ahead here and secure another good running back in Braylon Allen. He'll have a couple serviceable weeks. I can guarantee you he gets at least 2 to 4 touchdowns this year, and we'll take him on those weeks where he fills in for us. So we're looking at a 2-5-5-2 at this current point in time. Usually my preferred build is a 3-5-7-3. In years past, I've had a lot of just like all around stability with a build like that and usually get pretty good results. I'm often okay with drafting maybe two tight ends or two quarterbacks if, say if I get Josh Allen, Jaden McDaniels, something crazy like that, or if I get, if I get Sam Laporta. There's been many drafts where I've gotten George Kittle and Sam Laporta. If those two guys are my tight ends, I don't need to draft a third, and I can use that other to get a sixth running back or to get a eighth receiver. So, with that being said, I don't entirely know how this one's going to play out yet. I want to see how the draft board falls to us, but I feel really strong about all of our rooms, every single one of them. So I might just take the best players. Our receiving room is we have 2 week 5 buys, 2 week 9 buys. So as we're looking later on to pick up late value receivers, we probably want to avoid those bye weeks. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to star up Cam Ward. I'm going to star up Geno Smith. If either of those guys fall to us, we'll just, we'll be happy with taking them as our third. I'll star up Rico Dowdle. If he falls to us, we'll take our sixth running back there. Sam Darnold is a guy that we'll queue up as well. You see, man, like these receivers, there's a big receiver drop off. So, like, I'm not even going to look at my receivers yet. The receivers that I grab will be later because there's so many guys. I'll show you who I'm talking about when we get down there. I'm just going to queue them up and kind of chat a little bit about each of them. There's so many late round picks that I'm happy to have. I'm happy to take dart throws on these guys because they don't even feel like dart throws. They feel like guided, educated dart throws. There's real production to be had for pretty much all of these guys, and it hasn't been like that in years past on underdog drafts. You get into those late rounds, receivers and underdog drafts are shaky warrior, but we'll see. We'll see who falls to us. We're still 10 picks away. We still got a good amount of time. I love K-Dot. Let's see. I like Darius Slade. I like Yoshivas. Oh, not Chick. Yoshivas. I like Jalen Coker. I don't hate Miles Sanders. You shouldn't either. Tutu Atwell has some decent weeks. A.D. Mitchell could break out a little bit. I like Juwan Johnson a lot. Let's see as we get down here. Jalen Royals, a dog. He had some crazy games in college. I'll get back to my wide receiver run here in a second. Actually, hold on. Tesla. Vele. You should want Vele. Thornton. Like, it wasn't like this in years past, guys, where you can look down the list this far and have so many players that you're actually okay with having on your roster. And there's more, trust me. Hold on, I'm going to get to them. Troy Franklin. Jalen Lane, my boys. Jalen Lane. Keishon Butte. Xavier Restrepo. Need I go further? Okay, so let's see who's available up here. We got Geno Smith. We got Rico Dowdle. Let's take Rico Dowdle because there's still two pretty good quarterbacks left. As far as Geno and Sam Darnold, they're about equivalent. I'll be pretty much fine with whichever one of them falls to us. So we'll go ahead and take Sam Darnold with the next pick here. Has JSN, Cooper Kupp, some decent weapons. Feel pretty decent about that. All right, so we got three quarterbacks: Caleb Williams, C.J. Stroud, Sam Darnold. Very stout. Most weeks we can expect to have a top 10 QB finisher. I believe in that. Our running back room: Amarian Hampton, DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, Rashad White, Braylon Allen, Rico Dowdle. That's pretty good for somebody who didn't grab his first running back until pick 38. Once again, it was a reach, I know, but hey, I'm going to have a unique team, that's for sure. Our wide receiver room, who I am super happy about: Nico Collins, Drake London, Mike Evans, Jerome Odunze, Emeka Egbuka. And then we have Sam Laporta, Isaiah Likely. So we're going to be looking at two more picks in the draft here. I potentially am just going to stick with two tight ends here because I feel good enough about the safety and the floor of Sam Laporta that every week I think the least amount of points we get in a week this season from Sam Laporta is probably like 5.4 fantasy points, 5.6 fantasy points maybe. If that's my floor, I'm fine with that because I think that more often than not I'll get 10 plus points from Laporta. And then I'll also have some weeks where I get 20 plus points from Isaiah Likely. And I'm just going to rock out with that. And I'm probably going to add two more receivers to my room. Ideally, I think I'm going to want big play receivers who are guys that can break out some big plays for me. And man, because our room is so like sturdy, our receiving room is so sturdy that I wouldn't even hate going with a 3-6-6-3 build, which I almost never do. I almost always want to grab seven receivers or more. But because of how good our receivers are, I don't hate the idea of it. But no, we are going to grab two more receivers. Let's not overthink it or undo the points that we just made. I'm going to take Jalen Coker most likely with one of them because I think he has some big plays in him, and there will be a lot of attention on Tet McMillan. There will be some attention on Xavier Leggett. They run the ball a lot, so people are going to be thinking about that. I think Jalen Coker has at least one or two, uh, you know, 50 plus yard touchdowns in his bag this year. So that's a guy that I'll be pretty okay with taking. Jalen Royals, Devon Bailey, man, I actually I want a lot of these guys. So let's just go ahead and take Coker first. I've been taking a lot of Bailey and a lot of Royals. They're two of my most owned receivers late in the draft here. So I'm actually going to take a shot here on. You know what, man? I'm gonna take a draft pick of Keishon Butte, who's someone that doesn't I don't think is maybe really getting much attention right now. The wide receiver room in New England is pretty open. There's a lot of young guys in there. Last year, their draft picks did not prove worthy. Jalen Polk, Javon Baker. Man, when Javon Baker got drafted and he dropped that quote that said, "My game is so exciting, I make people in wheelchairs stand up." When he said that, I was like, this dude's going to be a dog. If you got the confidence to say something like that, you got to be good. And he totally didn't, even really get the opportunity to prove himself. Anyway, this year they draft Kyle Williams, who I'm a believer in Kyle Williams. I think he's stout. He's a good player. But Keishon Butte is kind of like low key. He did decent last year. He finished with three touchdowns, over 500 yards, had a good amount of targets and receptions. He's still young, but almost has like a veteran maturity and presence about him, to where I could see Keishon Butte being, having some weeks with 60 or 80 yards and a touchdown. And if we end up being desperate for any reason, like three of our guys get hurt or something, Keishon Butte can fill in. Hopefully, his big week that he has is on week 5 or week 9 when we have bye weeks with our receivers. And I wouldn't have hate. I might have liked my roster more with a Jalen Royals or a Vele or a Jalen Lane or even a Troy Franklin who has those big plays in him. But I just think I only have maybe one or two other teams that I've drafted Keishon Butte on. And I just want to kind of like spread out my exposure of these late round guys. Everybody that's queued here, I have multiple shares of all these guys in the last couple rounds, and I think that you should too. You should take a look at these guys because if you're able to hit on some of these late round picks and you make safe, solid picks throughout the early parts of the draft, dude, like you're gonna have a good advance rate because everyone else is gonna make mistakes. Trust me, they're gonna draft people that don't amount to anything, and it happens to everyone. So just try and make as few of those mistakes as possible. Get players that you know are good, people that you know have situations that are growing, people that you know are playing for something, have a chip on their shoulder, and you'll like how your team turns out. I love how this team turned out. Our three quarterbacks, we got Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, Sam Darnold. Ideally, maybe I'd rather a different quarterback than Sam Darnold as my third, but at the same time, at pick 182, can't really hate it. If he does anything remotely close to what he did last year with the Vikings, being is that he'll still have good weapons with JSN, Cooper Cup, etc. I think he'll have some weeks where he ends up being plugged into our lineup. If I'm being honest with you, our running back room, stout, Omari and Hampton, who's going to turn it up in the back half of the year. Najee Harris will be a factor. Don't sleep on Najee Harris, but Omari and Hampton is going to get a lot of touches. He's built like a workhorse. And I think toward the end of the season, when playoffs get popping in this tournament, he'll be a very good player to have on your teams. DeAndre Swift, I'm not like super pumped about DeAndre Swift, but at the same time, we got him past ADP. He's going to be in an offense that's set to improve. Ben Johnson made great work of Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. So, I mean, there's no reason to believe that he's not going to want to try at least to have a powerful running game in Chicago. And DeAndre Swift will be he'll be the guy for that. Travis Etienne, I talked about him when I drafted him. I could make a 20-minute video about Travis Etienne and why I'm a believer in him. Getting him at pick 110 as our RB3 is good stuff. Rashad White, 13 picks past ADP, around past ADP. I'm a believer in that, especially as our fourth running back on the board. He's going to have about 4 weeks where he's a top 12 running back on the week. We want those for our best ball lineup. Same thing with Braylon Allen. Same thing for Rico Dowdle, man. Carolina wants to be a run-heavy team. Dave Canales has made that clear throughout his career, and he wants to kind of have a committee. Like Chuba Hubbard ended up getting fed last year, but he wanted to have a second running back that runs with Chuba. That's why they drafted Jonathan Brooks so high, and that's why they had Miles Sanders and signed him to that big contract. They wanted to have a strong two-back system, and I believe that Rico Dowdle, what he did last year with Dallas, being a 1,000-yard rusher in the opportunity that he was given, he proved himself to be a good enough guy to be a solid, second fiddle for Carolina. And to get him at pick 179 as our sixth running back, let's go, dude. That's good stuff. We started our draft out strong with the wide receivers. Nico Collins, we have the stack with CJ Stroud, Drake London, who I believe can be wide receiver 1 on the year potentially. He's going to have a breakout year. Draft Drake London, you will be happy with it. Mike Evans, Mr. Consistent, as good as it gets. He's the GOAT. He's my GOAT. Rome Odunze, great pick. I talked about him at length earlier, as well as the Bears. Emeka Egbuka, I could talk for an hour about. He's my single favorite pick of drafts. I can't believe he's going this late. I can't believe people are overlooking the talent and the situation. But you know what? I'm used to this as a Tampa Bay Bucks fan because every year the Tampa Bay Bucks get overlooked, they get discredited, they get slept on, and nobody ever gives them the credit that they're due. Until this year, finally, people are projecting us to be good. But every year before and since Brady came, and even the years after Brady retired, we were projected to be a bottom-feeding team. I'm telling you, that's not the case. We've won the division every year. We're going to do it again this year. Emeka Egbuka is going to be that guy. And then Jalen Coker and Keishon Butte are just two dart throws. I don't have super strong cases for them. I could have picked any of these guys that I still have queued that went undrafted, and I would have been just as happy with them. So for me, it's just all about having some variation and calling different shots on those guys. And then my tight end room, Sam Laporta and Isaiah Likely, I believe is strong. I talked a little bit about it throughout the draft, and I felt good enough to leave this draft with just 2. So that is the Schnauzer entry for us here today. Let me know your thoughts, and hopefully you enjoyed this. So thank you so much.